I'm bringing my sister-in-law's wallet to the restaurant because she conveniently always forgets it. My sister-in-law Jenna, female 26, always comes to visit from out of town. She stays with us instead of a hotel to save money and always wants to go to all the expensive restaurants. She always conveniently forgets her wallet or comes up with some excuses as to why she can't pay her share of the bill. She has implied that since I make much more money than her, I should be the one to pay for all of her food. No, not my husband should pay, but me in specific. I do make a fair amount of money, but not so much that I can treat someone every time they come into town. Nonetheless, in the past, I have just paid the bill and asked her to pay me back, but she never does. And honestly, I'm getting really effing tired of it and I have reached my breaking point with this girl. She had made a reservation at an extremely expensive restaurant last night. And before we left, I made it very clear to her that I will not be paying her bill under any circumstance. Now listen, this is where I might be the jerk and I'll admit, I got this move straight from an episode of 2.5 Men. As we were leaving, her and my husband went to the car and we were all ready to drive to the restaurant. I pretended I forgot something and went back inside. I went inside the guest room she was staying in, and I found her wallet conveniently sitting right on top of her suitcase while we are going to a very expensive restaurant. So, what better thing to do than put it in my purse and go back inside the restaurant? My sister-in-law practically ordered the most expensive things on the menu. When we were done eating, I asked for separate bills. She said, no, we need one bill because she forgot her wallet again. I reached in my purse and said, this wallet? This is gold. She was extremely furious, going as far to screaming in this very quiet and peaceful restaurant. She looked like a complete lunatic and I felt the second-hand embarrassment. She said that I should have not touched or grabbed her wallet. So am I the jerk for taking her wallet? I gave my ex-wife a large amount of money I won despite the anger of my girlfriend. I recently won a few amount of money. I won't say exactly how much, but it's well into the millions. It's more than enough to change the life of myself and my family. My ex-wife is the mother of my 2 kids. She is an amazing woman and good to the bone. We divorced 5 years ago because I had an affair with my current partner who is now my wife. It was the biggest mistake I've ever made and it costed me to lose the love of my life. I was in a low place in my life and I really messed up. She was in incredible pain, but like a effing saint, she allowed me to still see our kids who mean the absolute world to me, and it allowed our divorce to be as pain-free as possible. She was actually the first person I called after my mom and dad, when I found out I won the lottery. She was happy for me, joked that I could take the kids on a world-round trip, and that was that, nothing else. I actually plan on doing this, maybe she could tag along as well. As soon as I won, I knew I wanted to give her a significant amount of the money, and I feel like this is some small, tiny way I can show her that I'm not a complete F-up. She deserves to know that I care about her despite all of my mistakes in the past. She also works a terrible job in the public library, which pays her peanuts. The money would allow her to not have to work her butt off to pay her bills, and she would actually be able to pursue her hobbies this way, and give our kids a better life between us. My wife works a decent job and doesn't even need the money. I haven't discussed this with my ex yet, but long story short, when I told my girlfriend, she was absolutely livid and threatened to end our relationship. She started screaming at me saying how disrespectful that is to her, and accusing me of still being in love with my ex. My girlfriend is now threatening to break up with me, and to be honest, I'm feeling incredibly relieved over the threats. I don't plan on changing my plans and I am going through with it. Am I the jerk?
I called out my kid's future stepmom for treating me like a surrogate. I, 29 female, dated a guy Joe, 30 male, for 3 months before he left me to go back to his ex, Emma. Right after we broke up, I found out I was pregnant. I let him know and he was ecstatic. It turns out his girlfriend had fertility issues and would likely never be able to get pregnant naturally, and he has always wanted to be a father. Joe was only allowed at the initial appointment and we found out I was having twins. According to Joe, when he told Emma, she had a complete mental breakdown about infertility, and wanted to have a conversation with me. I met them at their house and Emma said that she wanted to be involved in my pregnancy because she would eventually be the children's stepmom. She started giving me a list of what I need to do, telling me that I needed to do a home birth, that I needed to do formula feeds so that they could have the babies half of the week, that she wanted one boy and one girl, and she said that she wanted the kid to call her mama. So, I shut her down and said I would only make the best choices for my children and my body, and stormed out the front door. When it came time for my 20-week level 2 scan, they allowed me one guest and Joe suggested I take Emma instead of him, which I outright refused to do. Joe must come because he is the biological father. Joe did end up coming and he found out the gender because I wanted to keep it a surprise for me so we could throw a nice gender reveal party. I posted a pregnancy announcement on all of my social medias. I was ecstatic until I saw a post made by Emma, in which she posted an announcement saying they were expecting twins. Quote, the non-traditional way. And how blessed she was. I was so irritated, but I kept my mouth shut. Then she threw a gender reveal party and posted it all over social media, as well as announcing that she is having a baby shower. I wasn't even invited. I commented on her post and told her to stop treating me like a surrogate. Joe and Emma and some of her friends and family are saying I'm a complete jerk, and her mother even called and insisted I give her one of my babies. I feel like I'm living in a nightmare. Am I the jerk? My husband threw a barbecue party for his friends, so I refused to help and made sure it was a disaster. My husband prides himself on his barbecue skills. The thing is, I always end up doing everything. He buys and preps the meat and then grills and serves it and collects praise for all of his barbecue skills. I have to buy all the drinks, plates, and clean up the patio. I even prepare the sides, veggies, and refill everyone's drinks. We don't use paper plates or plastic cups since I find it wasteful. So to keep the main table tidy, it is non-stop work for me. He just told me last week that he invited his friends for Saturday, which was yesterday. He announced it without ever asking me. I said to myself, well, okay. Do I know anyone? Nope. All of his workmates are coming and they won't be bringing their spouses. My husband calls it a guys' night. I said, okay then, guys' night? Well, enjoy yourselves. I'll be in my craft room working on some of my projects. He said he will handle it. Spoiler alert, he in fact did not handle it. He got the meat all right, but just ignored any other preparation. I was just so sick and tired of being taken for granted, so I didn't bother to help. He never asks me for help. I just do stuff. So this time I didn't do anything. The patio was a mess. The table was never wiped down. Stuff lying all around. His friends finally came, so I welcomed them, but quickly excused myself to my craft room, put on some music worked, and tried to enjoy my peace. Cue the messages. He started asking for help, like, where are the plates? Where are the cups? Where are the sides? I just reminded him that he said he would handle it himself. I checked on them a couple hours later and it was a disaster. Table all cluttered. They ordered some takeout as sides. There weren't enough dishes and silverware. Someone had to go drive for drinks. Fast forward to the next day, he was all grumpy and actually told me that he is disappointed that I didn't pull my weight and I made our family look sloppy. I told him that he is a big guy and that if he embarrassed himself in front of his workmates, then that's on him. My family shamed me for having my wedding in sign language, so I matched their energy. I'm 24, female, deaf, and growing up my parents never taught me sign language and never immersed me into my culture as a deaf person. They were actually pretty against me using ASL at all. Well, in high school, I took ASL against my parents' wishes, which got me into a deaf university. Although I couldn't sign fluently when I started, I finally found a place that made me feel accepted and understood. The deaf community was nothing but welcoming. I had no idea how alone I felt until I didn't feel that way anymore. I met my fiancé at college. He is from a very large family of deaf people and everyone is fluent in sign language. We've been together 3 years now. He proposed last May. We've been planning the wedding and have decided that it would be fully in ASL. My extended family of hearing people is very small. We decided to get an interpreter for the hearing people so everyone would know what was going on. We wanted everyone to feel included. Our wedding is in August, so we just sent the invites. The invite mentions that it will be in ASL, but we'll have an interpreter for those who are signing impaired, which we thought would be a funny joke. As soon as the invite went out, my mom immediately started texting me and tried to convince me that it should be in English and have an ASL interpreter. I feel like it's our wedding, so we should have it in our language that we understand. My mom thinks that since we are in America, English should be the first language. And anyone who doesn't choose to get cured, aka get an implant, should get an interpreter. She also said it was disrespectful to say signing impaired. I don't think she realizes the irony, as she always refers to me as hearing impaired. My mom also says that the deaf people should be used to having interpreters, whereas she's never had one before. The rest of my family that isn't hearing impaired has came out against me. They're telling me how disrespectful I am for inviting people to a wedding that isn't their first language. Fine, I retracted the invites from every person who complained. I made sure to hire security at my wedding, so everyone that came crawling back was immediately kicked off the premises. Yes, even my own mother. I cut contact with most of my family and will be moving out of state within the next 4 months. Am I the jerk?
Steal my half of our parents' inheritance? Fine, I'll just waive $100 bills from your prison cell. Me and my brother never got along. I was the responsible one who played by the rules and somehow flew under the radar. He was the family troublemaker. He always had legal troubles. And he was often rude and snarky to me and my parents. A lot of the time, he would come home and scream at me and my mother and father over nothing, and would get violent. He would break things and he even hit us. If my brother had any friends, the relationship wouldn't last long. My parents passed when we were in our 30s. They were in a car accident. They left us their savings, which they equally divided between us. Maybe they thought that giving my brother some money would help him turn his life around. But they were wrong. As you might predict, my brother spent the money on gambling, alcohol, fancy hotel rooms, designer clothes, expensive cars, you name it. He threw his savings away on nothing. He was broke in a matter of weeks. Well, wouldn't you know it, my brother decided to call me up to ask for a portion of my savings. 50% to be exact. He offered to repay it, but I knew there was no chance of that happening. I told him to go to hell. I knew he wasn't happy about it, but that's what you get for being a jerk to your brother your entire life. A few days later, I went to look at my bank account, and I saw my money was gone. It didn't take me long to figure out what happened. My brother had hacked into my Zelle account. He transferred all the money to himself. Lucky for me, his paper trail wasn't too hard to decipher. I called my bank right away to tell them about the unauthorized transaction. I also told them I had a good idea that my brother had transferred the money to his account. They could see that the money in question had gone directly into his account. They returned the money to me right away. There was a brief investigation and eventually, my brother was convicted of fraud. Fraud is a felony, so he was sentenced to years in jail. When I went to visit him, I spat in his face and waved $100 bills through the glass. My brother has been in jail for a few years now. Am I the jerk?